So 7:03 it looks like. So we have minutes from October, and November. I'm not sure what else we're doing tonight besides minutes. We have to. I do want to make sure we talk about the Rich's note concerning Sewell.
Yeah.
Danny's supposed to be stopping that?
No, Denny asked me to talk about it.
Okay. So you'll be the proxy for the town manager.
I don't have a lot to say, but.
Okay. So maybe, how does the board feel about proceeding through review of the minutes first?
Yeah.
If that's okay. Then let's go for working in chronological order, minutes from October 4, 2018. Thank you, Nick, for sending these out. Greatly appreciate that.
You need 4 people, okay them?
What's that?
You need 4 people to okay them?
We need 3 as a quorum.
Okay.
So when we have 4, we're good.
Okay. That was to say, I can't vote on either one of them.
Oh, okay. Oh, because you weren't here for
Right.
those? Okay. Has everybody gone through the minutes of October 4? So what do we have for edits, comments, corrections?
Okay. I'm wondering, the main paragraph says planning board went through the application, seeing what was needed to be brought in. No, I'll skip that for now, but it seems that the second sentence, the board found that everything was included with the application to deem it complete. I think we either need to write except for the DEP certification number, or just eliminate that sentence entirely and say George made a motion that the application is complete except for the contractor number. And I think it pretty much does what we need to do in one sentence by eliminating the first sentence.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Where's the second sentence in the paragraph?
I don't believe I made the motion and seconded it.
Yeah, you probably did one of them.
I think Rich seconded.
I think you're probably right. I didn't catch that one.
I was wondering about that. So let's strike the second sentence, and then that means this third sentence, which is now the second, would start off with George made a motion, blah blah blah, Then the next sentence, rather than George seconded the motion, it should say Rich seconded the motion.
And the next sentence, we need an S after findings of fact. Small t before the planning board. And I think it's was versus were. And lastly, I think we should say that on the next to the last line, applicant supply the CEO with certified contractor number before work could begin.
Yep.
And that's all I have.
For all of the minutes, or?
No, I only
Oh,
went through the first. I read the other ones at home.
okay.
So the only thing I would add to what the end of that paragraph regarding the RSU 18 parking lot is, I believe again, Rich seconded my motion. I may be wrong about that. And then adding something like approved unanimously.
So,
Because we did make a decision.
right. So on my copy, the sentence says, the last sentence in this thing says Rich seconded the motion and it was approved unanimously. Does yours not say that?
No.
Are we on the same one, October?
Oh, I did do some edits 2 days ago or so. So I don't know if that was before or after I sent them out on email.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that,
So,
good.
Yeah. So you're on the
Consider
same.
that.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. That's good. Thank you.
It must have been that telephone. He's reading and I got going.
Yeah. Must be.
On page 2 under new business, anything? I had a couple little things I saw.
Got a spelling roof versus rude.
Right. And I was thinking, rather than the application was asking to renovate the camp, that it was the applicant was asking. For me, the third line down in that paragraph, the line begins management, period. Then that next sentence starts with Pam not include it in the plan.
Did I
Maybe,
miss?
yeah, are we missing a word?
Did not.
Okay. It wasn't sinking in. I was like, what? This means something. And I had nothing else on number 1, and I didn't see anything on number 2 under new business.
The only additional thing I have is going back to the beginning is we need to add who was attending. And I believe it was just 3 of us, Peter, Rich, and myself. And then in addition to that, Boyd Snowden, Al Hodgson. I don't remember the guy that works with Al.
I think it's Mark Turgeon.
Yeah, he was there at that meeting.
Al wasn't here.
At a later meeting, he wasn't, but at this first one, he was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the first one was.
And then
I think
Pamela Wilcox.
Who's Pamela Wilcox?
She was the shoreline zoning, the woman with the main cabin masters.
Yep.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So on the minutes that I have, it has
Yeah, that's also something
he worked on. Yeah.
Once again. Okay, I'll just shut up.
No, it's good.
Just
I don't know what's
just
going
so you
on.
know, the last paragraph about butters being notified,
Yeah.
second time, I was not notified again this time.
What happened?
They abut the back of my land.
So let's make sure we know that. So for,
So the last building that went up, I also never got notified.
Does
I
your,
didn't
your
understand
property
either.
actually touch it? It
Because
does.
the right of way going to them is between me and Roger. And their land goes at an angle.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, again, this is the second time they never notified us. So we either have to do something like they gotta come in with letters so we can verify, or somehow they've gotta show proof that they did it.
so Nick, I don't know if you heard this, but Roger,
Which one was this?
on
Beckett.
Beckett Academy,
Very
From-
last paragraph,
from a process perspective, the abutters were notified, but Roger is technically an abutter. He and his wife are. And they were not. So we want to make sure that, you know, we're thorough, I guess, in that. And it may not be clear if you're just looking at a map. It just may not
Right,
be.
right, right.
But we have
So,
to.
so Roger, does your property, I mean, would it show up on the tax map?
it should.
Yeah, I did, I must have missed it, 'cause I had a ruler and I went around the property 500 feet.
Because right between me and Roger's place, there's a 20-foot right of way. And then it cuts out towards my land, right at the end of mine, it goes at an angle.
But that's what you're doing, you're using,
500 feet.
500? You're within 500 feet.
What?
You're within 500 feet,
property.
because that's
I don't know
where
how
we,
far back they
that's
are.
where we draw the line.
Yeah,
That could be, you might be more than 500
it
feet.
could be.
Ah. All right, well, maybe we'll just look at it.
Yeah, I'll make sure that.
Okay. Would the board like to go through all of the minutes, or and then just make one
Oh,
motion, or would you like to do review and then make a motion?
yeah, let's do them one at a time.
Okay.
Finish them. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
And second. Any more discussion? Thank you. All those in favor?
That's October 4th.
October 4th, 2018. The quorum approves. One person who was not in attendance on the 4th did not vote. Moving on to minutes from October 18, 2018. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the 18th? What comments or edits do we have to make improve?
I think at the very first one, the meeting was called to order, and not called into order, but called to order. I think this is on the present other, I think this is where George probably met with the Turgeon guy.
Yeah, he was there, but not Al.
Right.
Okay, we probably ought to put his name, it says A. Hodgson.
I think it's Mark Turgeon. I won't swear to that, but I think it is.
Do you have that information, Nick? that you
Yeah, I
can
can
look
go
up?
back to the recording.
I'm pretty sure it is, Nick.
In terms of present other, Douglas and Jean Legg were there. Wasn't sure if that was already corrected or not.
No, that's not.
Well,
Because it might have been. I mean, if
It
you're
might have
thinking
been.
about it, you know.
Apparently didn't think hard enough.
So, if it's okay with the board, on page 2, I had a question, just for clarity's sake. There are a couple of mentions of the DEP best business practice. I think the word we want to use is best management practices.
Stormwater management.
Best stormwater management practices, yes, even better. So Nick, is that okay? Do you see what we're saying? So scratch business and insert stormwater management and make practice plural. Practices.
Application number 3, throw a T after the W-E-N, the planning board went over.
Went. And at the end of that same paragraph that Rich is talking about, we want to have the same reference to DEP best stormwater management practices there too. Back up to number 2, the 1, 2, third line. Midway through there's a sentence that begins, the planning board were ready for a motion. I think we want to say the planning board was. Anything else?
Under new business, the first shoreline zoning application by County Road 250 LLC. Wasn't there an individual here for that?
what was it called?
County Road 250 LLC. It was down in Sandy Cove.
Mm-hmm.
It was the name of a person. We probably should put the name of the person
Yeah, it
that.
was.
Who was it then?
I'll look at the application.
And,
I'm sure it's gonna be on there. It's a lady, I know that, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yep.
Down for.
I can't remember. Was she an architect or?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And she
her
was,
name probably should go there
and she was
under
with the owner.
present owner. Oh, that's right. The owner was there too. So there were 2 people.
The architect was from like down east, somewhere, not down east, but right by.
Rockland or somewhere over that way.
And the owner was from Portland.
Yep.
The only other thing I had, and maybe there's more to it, but on the bottom of the second page under other and discussion about Dennis's conversation with me about the commercial development review application and people's frustrations with it. Mine just ends with that after 4 and
Yeah, that's changed.
is that it? That's all there is?
No, there's, I've added stuff to it, so,
You did?
yeah.
So now it reads, that there were complaints about the commercial development review application. It ends with those words now.
It's not just that.
Okay. This doesn't quite capture the entirety of the conversation that we had, and, for example, I had talked about going back to why we did what we did in terms of trying to guide people step by step through the process, and I don't know if we want some of that added to this, because some people are gonna read this and this is all they're gonna know about the issue, and it's just one side of it,
Right.
of the discussion that we had. I did come up with some language that, if you want, I can just read and
Sure, let's hear it.
it's acceptable. So again, you know, on my copy, it stopped with the last word being that. But that the intent was to guide applicants step by step. Don't try to write all this down.
Okay.
If that's what everybody decides. But the intent was to guide applicants step by step through the process, rather than play gotcha. I remember using that term, since most applications were incomplete, and to ensure the ordinance's standards are met and equal treatment of all applicants, period. Suggested Denny contact Peter Russian if wish board to meet with the select board to discuss. Oh, actually, I didn't even follow my own little line here. So I had also another sentence for this last one, inconsistency in the past, in past reviews of applications was a complaint of the town business community during the comprehensive plan development.
Get that, Nick?
Hopefully they'll give me a call for that.
No, well, I just wanted to read it for everybody to see what people thought.
Yep, that's good. Could you read that last sentence? Again,
Sure.
The complaint about.
Well, why don't I read the whole thing
Okay.
without being piecemeal? So George just wanted to let everyone know that the intent was to guide applicants step by step through the process rather than play gotcha, since most applications were incomplete, and to ensure the ordinance standards are met and all applicants are treated equally. Inconsistency in past reviews of applications was a complaint of the town business community during the comprehensive plan development. Suggested Denny contact Peter if wishes board to meet with select board to discuss.
While you were reading that, one of the things I had in mind, or I had in front of me, was the checklist that we had developed for each of the ordinances and how it related to what came from the various subgroups within the comprehensive plan. So I think what you summarized there fits in nicely with at least some of the things I could find from our checklist. So that's consistent. So I would say what you've done there is good.
Yeah.
So I think we should include those comments as edits to that paragraph.
Second.
Yeah, so that's good.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so are there any other edits for the minutes from So October 18th, 2018. I would entertain a motion for these then,
Make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
as amended.
Second.
Any more discussion? And Roger, you're not there for these, so you would not be voting. All those in favor? So the three who were present at that meeting voted in favor. Roger, who was not present, did not vote. Minutes from November 1?
Election day thing.
Okay. Are we all set with the review of those? What edits do we have for this? If any?
Number one.
One?
I don't know if we need to do this or not, but so Dennis was not able to attend the meeting. I thought maybe we should add at the end of that, so this item was not taken out.
That clarifies.
So I don't think, well, we took it up without him or something.
Yep.
Although there's nothing discussed, so I just, the insinuation is we didn't deal with it anyway. But anyway, number two, I think it was a non-conforming lot and non-conforming structure as well. And then on line 2, this sentence, it's actually the third sentence in the paragraph says, do so. I think that's doing so would make it less non-conforming. Wait, let's sort of make it less conforming. Yeah, non-conforming. We're gotta have the word non in there. Otherwise, we're saying we're allowing to make it as a structure more non-conforming. So we gotta add non. And then again, number one, item number 2, bullet number 1 is that DEP stormwater best management practices instead of business practices. And then I go to 3, and I think 3 was a non-conforming structure as well, because you wanted to put the deck closer to the water, which would make it more non-conforming. So we need to add non-conforming structure for a reason. And to make it clear, I think third sentence, Rich said that there are no issues with enclosing the deck and porch, but the expansion cannot happen. I would suggest adding, as it would make the structure more non-conforming. That gives a reason why it can't happen.
Other than just a declaration, it cannot happen. It's good to be
Vice
king.
Chair. And then number 2 on that same thing is the DEP best management practices issue, where it says business practice on bullet number 2.
Good.
I don't have anything.
Anything, Roger? So, just want to take a moment to point out what you said, Rich. This is an excellent opportunity to refine the wording in the reason thing. So you're accurate in saying non-conforming lot, but when Rich says to include the non-conforming structure, that is the reason why it's here. I would go further and say, and advocate that we please have that same type of thing for everything that comes up. So if a person were to read the minutes later, they would see not only what the applicant intends to do or hopes to do, but the reason why the planning board took it up. Because we would take it up because they're proposing to do some activity with a non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot, for example. Does that make sense? So does that paint a good picture of what? Okay, thanks. Anything else?
I got one comment I want to make after we vote on it.
Okay. So are we ready to vote then?
Motion.
Motion?
Motion to accept the minutes of November 1st as edited.
Okay.
Second.
And seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? 4 unanimously. Yes, Roger.
So we don't get bit in the butt further down the road, this particular permit is one that we could have put another thing to it, and the one with the garage on Route 11, that trailer was supposed to be moved out in the back. That
Okay, so-
hasn't been moved yet. This one here, he's supposed to tear buildings down to put the new one. Should we put a time limit as to when that has to happen?
Which garage are you talking about?
The new one on 11, the two bay, across from JR. The one where,
Oh, the repair garage,
Yep.
the
R&R.
French building.
Yeah.
Should you put a what on it?
remember when they said that Dave Stevens was gonna sell the land, have the trailer hauled off, and then they were gonna build a garage? Well, that trailer's still there.
Yes, and I got the lowdown on that this week.
Okay.
David Stevens sold that property to R&R Auto
Right.
with the understanding he was gonna pull that mobile home out.
Mhm.
He went to pull that mobile home out, and David Burton, who lives behind him, wouldn't allow that to happen, and I don't know why David is intimidated by David Burton, but he just said, I'm hands off, you take care of it.
Huh. So there's a dispute between a neighboring property owner.
I think David Burton, as the abutter, I don't know if he wanted to buy that property and he didn't. David bought it instead. I don't know what the issue is.
Yeah.
David
Yeah.
Burton's a
Yeah.
little difficult to deal with at times.
Does he have to bring the thing across David Burton's property to get that?
No, I don't think so. Or maybe that's.
It had its own driveway.
Maybe.
Coming down by that road
Yeah.
that goes into that.
That could be, but David Burton I know David Burton gave David Stevens a hard time.
Wow.
Mr. Burton was here.
Right.
Yes,
Sort of.
and he didn't say much.
No, he didn't say much at all. In fact, I thought he asked whether that trailer was gonna be removed, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, I think he did.
And that left me with the impression that he wanted it gone.
Yeah, I mean, he looks right at it. He lives on that road. But the other condition was that R&R couldn't occupy until they drilled
The well.
Barbara's well
Yep.
across the street.
Okay. But this one here now, if they don't tear down the other two buildings, he starts doing construction with the eyes around, they're gonna say, hey, what's going on?
Are we talking, we're talking about a different project?
Yeah, this one that we just voted on.
Which one is that?
Baxter Point. I think that's what it is, isn't it?
Analysis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Dallas's.
Yeah.
Well,
Woodland camping.
one of them was totaled by a tree.
Right,
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But still, it's just that one structure that's gonna remain, and somebody come by and sees he's building another one,
Right, right.
you know?
I mean,
I just don't know if legally we can do that, but they said they were gonna do it, so can we put a time limit on it?
yeah, it's a.
Can we say before you start, it has to be removed?
Why couldn't you? That's a condition.
Yeah, we
Right.
could have at the time.
That's a
Right.
plan. Well, you can't now,
Right.
But I'm thinking in the future, like I
Yeah,
said
no, in the
before,
future, I think that's,
Yeah, that's a plan, but just like you said, you can't occupy that R&R auto until you drill the well. That's a
Yep.
time limit.
Yeah,
That's a condition.
yeah, it is a
Yeah, you
condition.
can-
I think we've been screwing up on some of them by not doing that.
I think that's a good thing to keep in mind, Roger, going forward, that, you know, rather than just having something open-ended, an open-ended condition, say, this is how we close the gap on stuff, is,
Because other than that, you go, Gary, go over and say, hey, when are you gonna tear it down? Oh, I'll get to it. There's nothing written.
right, right.
Oh,
Yeah, that would make my life
Right.
easier.
yeah.
Right,
well,
which-
we should be more cognizant of that.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point.
Gary, getting back to, the auto repair garage, I assume they haven't drilled the, well yet.
I just talked to somebody today, or yesterday, I talked to somebody. And R&R is over budget, like everybody is, but they are gonna drill the well. For some reason, the well ended up costing him 10 grand. He thought it might be 5 or 6, and it ended up being 10. And he's bitching because he's over budget, but yes, he knows he has to do it, and he's getting ready to do it.
because they should be ready to open that garage pretty soon.
It's close. I talked to the electrician the other day. He said that the lifts are in place. I've got to wire those, and I got a couple outside lights to put up. But it's for the most part.
I would imagine they're not gonna pave that driveway this year either.
I don't think they're gonna pave it at all, are they? Was that shown on the plan?
I don't know.
I think it remains gravel. I'm pretty sure. Nice looking building.
It is
Yeah,
nice
it's
looking,
nice looking
and I'm excited for them, you know, it could be a good opportunity.
I must not have been here when we voted on it or whatever, but what was the rationale for the requirement that when they drill a well for the people across the street or something?
Yeah,
Because they're less than 300 feet.
300 feet?
Yeah, radius.
Or that, or they had to get a variance from DEP.
Oh, I see, okay, I got you now.
And they knew that before they even came here.
Yeah, they did.
They had agreed,
Wasn't anything
they had
to them.
agreed to drill her a new well.
Because it
Yeah,
worked
that was
out,
part of their
this-
initial proposal, they took the bull by the horns.
they'd gone through Andy, and he was very thorough.
Andy Dunbar, yeah.
Yeah, so, he was very thorough, so that's good. All right, thank you. So, moving on to other business, Nick, again, thank you for all the
Are
work.
we caught up on minutes now?
Yeah, there's
Yep.
one in September, I know it's gonna be a public hearing now.
Yes, sir.
Remember what we did that.
Yeah.
Are you, I'm just curious, are you finding the fact that you have Microsoft Word now, that the pagination and the construct of this is a little easier?
Yes, it's good.
Good.
Oh, what you had before?
07.
So, yeah, so things are more modern from the town's perspective. Okay, so Rich, you sent out this email?
Yeah, there was, I had a hand, which I have right here, when I went up there, I had this handwritten message of what, this is back when they gave us the first draft, the draft that we, got like, what, from a year ago or something like that?
Right.
The one with the districting all messed up, we got residential, resource protection and stuff. But we had talked, and we did it in that corner room, we had a meeting back there at the time, about what we wanted to have our new map look like.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went up there the first time, to go over what needed to be done so that we had the map that we would want for our new ordinance, to go with the new ordinance. These are the items that I said we need to have addressed on that map.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of them was what I think specifically related to Guinea's agreement or whatever with them. And that was the one, number 4, that says significant areas as shown as resource protection should be limited to residential and vice versa. They had half the map screwed up in terms of the districting. And, you know, I think going back to that agreement, if they were to comply and meet the level of the limits of the agreement or whatever, number 4 should be addressed under that agreement. Otherwise, they haven't given us anything. Where the $2,000 is gone because now we have this other map that doesn't even have the right districting on it. These other things were things that we discussed that we wanted our new map to look like. We didn't want to show all these less than 10-acre wetlands because, and have districting around them, because people looking at the map will think they're zoned, and they're not.
Right.
Number 2, the same kind of thing. There were designations of emergent, forested, scrub wetlands, I guess, that weren't part of the shoreland districts. They're just out there. Let's see, show only the 250-foot limit of residential, commercial, general. Again, it's all related to don't show areas that aren't zoned. And we got those critical wetlands, critical whatever.
Advisory areas.
Zoned,
Advisory.
Yeah, advisory. We voted not to include the advisory ones because it just confuses the
Map.
the reader.
Right.
And then we got
That
into.
confused me when I first came on the board.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it confused everybody. And then only 4 wetlands remain moderate high value, and I had wanted them to show those, only those 4, and to not add any new resource protection areas because we, at the time, we haven't notified anybody. You know, the idea was we're going to use this new map for our, with the ordinance that we're having amended, and we didn't have time to notify people that we were adding new resource protection areas. So I said, look, just eliminate the ones that are no longer moderate high value.
Yep.
But don't add any new ones.
Don't add any new ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's what that is.
this summary, I think, is right to the point. I don't work at Sewell. My history with mapping software, though, would lead me to believe that items 1, 2, and 5, and, well, at least those, limited effort to get those accomplished. Really limited. I mean, almost practically, yeah, well, not much manpower hours would be required to remove those.
Yeah.
That's
May take a little explaining on our part, like we want to leave the number 2 says remove designations for emergent, forested. Well, if it's an emergent or a scrub shrub associated with a pond, that's part of the pond, so we got to leave that. The point of number 2 really is if you have a forested wetland out here that's 12 acres, we don't want that shown on the map because it's not zoned.
Right.
So take a little explaining, but once they explain it, yeah, I think it's a matter of, you know, KB Cog does it all the time. They create a map for somebody using the criteria.
right. So, So, thank you for summarizing this. Gary, what did Denny?
Reporting from Dennis. He said I wanted to be here tonight, but I couldn't. I had another meeting to go to. And he said I really don't have a lot to say about the shoreline zoning map, other than I have budgeted $2,500. I don't know if that's accurate or enough.
Sounds about like what we've heard before, I guess.
Okay.
Correct.
I mean, he said that's really all I have to talk about. You guys are the people that know what needs to be on the map. But
Right.
he said there is $2,500 in the budget, or there will be.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for conveying that.
Next fiscal, whenever that is.
So, from my perspective, I guess I'm still feeling like, from a service delivery organization, that we paid good money to have something done. we're not we haven't met that part yet, right? In other words, had they met our expectations, some of these things, you know, we wouldn't have to do or redo or get them to do more work on. So I think we need a pretty candid conversation with them to say, listen, we need to have things that are done accurately, not just done, but done accurately, as we've described them.
It's either kind of that, or we just say, heck with them. We gave them $2,500 already and got nothing out of it.
Right,
Let's talk to somebody else and see what they would charge us
right,
to do a new map or whatever.
right. So let me ask this, do we own the data?
I have no idea.
We need to find out, do we own that data? Seems like if we've given them money, then we own the data, it's ours. If that is the case, and we decide that we do not want to do business with them anymore, that we should very easily be able to receive that data in such a way we can port it to somebody else. Say company A.
Or if we gave them 2,500 and they screwed up that badly, can't they do something for us?
Well, that's my original thing. Yeah, I'm thinking, geez, we've actually had a long history with them. It's not like I'm just wanting to run.
Right.
But
Yeah, when I met with them, I didn't push it, I wasn't part of the agreement, so I don't really
No, I
know
know.
what was agreed upon. But it seems to me that the agreement said, and I don't, you know, again, supposedly this is an agreement, not a contract or something, but you would think if you agreed to do something,
And you didn't.
and you didn't fulfill your agreement or contract.
Your
You
obligation.
clearly didn't. We
Right.
got a worse map back than what we
So
gave.
why would we give them another $2,500 to fix something that they screwed up?
I cannot think of a good reason to
I can't
do
either.
so. My initial thoughts are to ask them kindly to make good on their end.
Relook at this and we'll show you what you did wrong.
Seems to me to be able to move forward and actually get to the point where we have something that we can confidently present to the voters to have them approve, that meets all our needs, is on current software, reflects these items that Rich laid out previously, plus makes the alterations in terms of deleting some wetlands and possibly adding one or two of the additional wetlands that were identified by Inland Fish and Wildlife. Seems to me we need to do two things, and one of them is we've got to eliminate the middleman. Here, Denny is the middleman, and you know we can't be communicating to Sewell when the middleman ain't here.
Right.
I mean, we may have gotten, that $2,500 may have gotten us the conversion to the new software, and that's it. That's why we don't have anything, you know, that we can hold in our hands. We just don't know, because Denny's the only one that does know, or should know, because he's the one that entered into this letter agreement. Not us, you know, we were barely consulted on the matter.
And it's
So there's that. The answer to that determines what direction we go
right.
and how much it's going to cost to go in that direction moving forward. As I said at the last meeting, I do not want to repeat the mistake of last spring where we pulled a number out of the friggin' air. $2,500 has no basis in fact. We don't know if it's going to cost $2,000 or $5,000, much less $2,500 to get what we need to come up with a final product. And it seems to me the only way we're going to get a good number is to solicit basically bids, or whether they be formal or less formal, and whether it includes, you know, this firm or other firms. You know, competing against one another.
I think part of the problem is, yes, Dennis is the one that implements the contract, but Dennis doesn't know what that map needs to look like, you know?
right?
So there has to be somebody else involved other than just Dennis.
Right.
Yeah.
I do recall when he started to go to have the conversation with him, he had, I think, emailed me or called me, and I made sure to mention that, as I recall, getting into updated software is critical, because previously we had to go through quite a lot of level of effort to get something from them before. So getting into updated software was a big thing that I recall saying. I'm not sure if that's all that was said, to Sewell, but I remember saying that to Denny.
Because if they accomplish that, then, we could chalk the $2,500 that we've already spent and provided to them up to, okay, it costs $2,500 just to do that and nothing else. I think poor communication is a major part of all this, between them and us, because they're not communicating to us, they're communicating to Denny. That woman Mary, communications have been with Denny, not with us.
That's what I said, yeah.
And so we don't, we're sort of like the odd man out.
I wonder if we could have, can we have a conference call with them? Have all of us? I mean, like Sewell, Planning Board, and Denny.
I think that would not be a bad thing. What I was going to say was, we don't know what Denny knows and what he doesn't know.
Right.
He may know, for example, that for our the town's $2,500, they did A, B, and C. But nobody's communicated that to us. If they did do the software upgrade or conversion to a modern day software, then at least we know what our baseline is, what our starting point is. Then we could take what Rich has already done and make a decision about the wetlands that are been mapped by inland fish and wildlife that come off and go on, possibly go on, make that decision. And then we got the basis of a task list.
Right.
Tell us how much this is gonna cost.
Right. And that will be.
And then that's what goes into the budget, not $2,500 that comes out of the thin air somewhere,
Right.
Ionosphere.
We desperately need that.
And it's not how you conduct business.
Right.
And I'm not even sure that they did the conversion to the software thing. When I was up there, Mary told me that when I talked about the district and being screwed up, she said, well, we did that based on a copy of a map, Denny's photocopy of a map or something like that. All we had was a photocopy of a map. And it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like it's connected to software.
See, somebody needs to communicate to Sewell other than Dennis, I think.
Yeah, probably.
He doesn't have a good understanding of.
Right.
Well, and that's understandable. It's just that he's the person that does the contracting.
I understand, but maybe it needs to be him and Rich, or him and Peter, or somebody that has some knowledge of what this map needs to look like.
Right.
And my problem is I don't have, when we talk about software and conversion and stuff like that, it's kind of like, I don't know anything about that, what that all means, other than the two things are incompatible right now. And
Right.
it's because it's outdated, but
Right.
what that all entails, I don't have a clue.
Right.
Well, and the other challenge, of course, is, Dennis is already putting the town budget together. And with a dollar figure for this work that
He pulled out of the sky.
we just don't know how close it comes to being accurate,
Right.
if at all. I mean, it could be off by 100%, 200%, we don't know.
Yeah. So we need to, I think, be on. We have to be in communication with Sewell. We need to find out answers to these questions. We need, in my opinion, I think we need to head down this road in a very logical manner so we can So we can get to a point to say, if we're going to have a budget to do map work, that we know what it's gonna cost, based on our task list and what the company has told us it would cost.
You need to have this conversation with Dennis.
Right, well,
And he did tell me, he regrets not being here, but he will talk to you. He told me.
Okay, fantastic. I'm sure he will.
We need to talk to Dennis, because we need to figure out, in my mind, we need to figure out what Dennis agreed with them to do. You know, get the written specifications of this agreement, but it's kind of like, well, I'm just puzzled as to how you can have an agreement with a reputable company, and then they come back and they give you this piece of crap, and then they say, we spent all the money, we can't do anything more for you. And it's like, whose fault is that? If you agreed to do this for $2,500 and you gotta spend $3,500 to do it, that's your problem, it's not ours.
Right, exactly.
Apparently, the fact it's not a contract must, in talking about it, it sound like it's not a formal agreement or something. It sounds like they got us over the barrel.
Yeah.
Doesn't anything over a certain price, and I don't know what that price is, Nick, you might know, have to go up a bid anyway?
Is it? Yeah, I'm sure there is. Is it $5,000 or is it less?
Must be more than 2,500.
Must be. Do you know?
I don't know, no, but I think it's.
Probably up to selectmen to authorize Dennis to do it up to a certain amount.
Yeah, but you need to talk to Dennis
Yeah.
and find out what his agreement was prior.
Yeah, that's number one. Wonder if he has some written document say, Dear Sewell, you know.
This is what we're looking for.
well,
Yeah, we
there
do
was
have,
a-
we do have a copy of the agreement.
Yeah, that, we saw that in the spring or early summer or something like that.
I know it's been in this file, Nick has. It called for them to give us 2 copies of the map when they were done, I think the disc or something. And thank you, thank you, this is letter today. Thank you for allowing James Soul Company the opportunity to provide a price quote for upgrading the town of Belgrade zoning map. Below, we have provided a project scope and price quote for the requested service. And upgrade, the first category, upgrade zone map. Sewell will upgrade the town's historical zoning map GIS data and plotting routine, which were originally prepared for the town in 2003. The data prepared at that time used mapping software that is no longer supported. This proposal is for conversion of the data layers used at that time to a format that is usable in current mapping software such as ArcGIS. Once the data layers have been converted, a plotting routine will be prepared to recreate the town zoning map. While the map may look slightly different in appearances, all efforts will be made to provide a map similar to that which the town has been using and is familiar with. Upon completion of the data format conversion, Sewell will deliver the following two copies of the zoning map in color, size 36 by 48, one PDF file of the zoning map. Cost is based on the conversion of the GIS data and plotting routine upgrade only and does not include any zoning updates, which would be this resource protection type stuff. If zoning updates are required, Sewell can estimate any additional cost for these as information provided by the town. Project cost, $21.25. We expect the turnaround time to be approximately 2 to 3 weeks for delivery of the maps for your review. Once the project begins, the town will be billed monthly for the percentage of work complete to date. Payment is due within 30 days of the date of invoice. Whatever prices and schedule listed above are valid for 60 days. If the town decides to proceed with the project after 60 days from the date of this proposal, Sewell reserves the right to the cost. We look forward to working with the town on this project. Your notice to proceed can be a letter or a purchase order that makes reference to this proposal or a copy of this letter with an authorizing signature. in the space provided below. If you have any questions, contact Mary McDonald. It's signed by Mary McDonald. This one here, it doesn't have Denny's signature, but I assume he signed it somewhere.
So Dave,
So, did we ever get 2 copies of the map? Did we ever get a
No,
disc?
we got one copy of a draft thing.
We didn't get a disc.
What's that?
We didn't get a disc.
No, we didn't, that's what I said, we didn't get anything out of this.
So they didn't,
And what they, and Matt, in the one paper, the draft was wrong.
right. So they didn't live up to their agreement. So why would we pay them
Yeah,
another,
that's what
why would we
I'm
pay them
saying.
again?
Denny's kind of like told me, yeah, I get the impression that, oh, this was only an agreement, it wasn't a contract, we can't enforce it or something.
well,
But we need to talk to Denny, maybe I heard it
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
but they certainly didn't live up to what they told us they were gonna do.
No.
That's the first step to
yeah.
even beginning to clear this up.
You need to talk to
I,
Dennis.
I'm not sure Denny understands because he's not hearing it directly.
Right.
And when I talked to him the day I went up there, well, I told him I brought the stuff back, because we wanted corrections. And they essentially told me that, well, we're over budget, we've spent our money, and then the next thing I heard was, we can't do anything more for you, we did spend our money on it.
We didn't even get what you said you were gonna give us.
Now, we didn't get 2 copies of a bad map, we got 1 copy of a bad map.
I want 2
And no
copies
disc.
of a bad map and a PDF of a bad map.
I want a bad.
By God.
By God.
Bad disc as well.
Well, anyway, so,
I think you need to have a discussion.
yeah, we need to talk to Denny.
Yep.
Yeah,
That paper you just read, you ought to get a copy of that in case this one disappears.
right, yeah, yeah, could I get a copy of that?
Yeah.
Great. I'm not sure, when Denny's available, how could we organize a time to talk to Denny?
Just call him. Just call him.
He's in the office and out of the office and,
Did he get his other job?
Mhm.
alright,
Would it make sense for us to add to Rich's list so that we have, at the time of that meeting or shortly thereafter, basically the skeleton of the next, the next tasks?
yes. Yes.
One thing we're gonna have to do as part of the next task, even if they were to be able to complete what we had them do here, it's related to number 6 here. We're gonna have to do some site visit or whatever, whether it's looking at photos, whether it's going to the site. We've got these 2 wetlands that Fish and Wildlife is saying is moderate or high value that we don't have on our map now. One of them is just north of Hanamumber on the Belgrade Stream, and the other one is the outlet of Long Pond. I know there's a fair amount of development up on that stretch where,
Yeah, there
but
is.
how close it is to the wetland, I don't know, because if the development is more than 250 feet from the wetland, that's not a reason for not putting in resource protection. If the houses are in that area already, and there's 3 or 4 houses, I don't think we want to stick them in resource protection.
Right.
Make them non-conforming.
Yeah,
And
right.
make people pissed off and.
Yeah, right from the
Right.
get-go.
Right.
Rich, refresh my memory, so do we need to contact the landowners before we even consider making changes to the map? I was just wondering if I got the horse.
I think before we propose it to the town or whatever, but I mean, us talking about it, I don't think we have to run around telling neighbor we're proposing, but when we decide that we're going to propose being resource protection, I think at that point.
So we need to talk to them or notify them before we, for example, authorize work by by Sewell or whoever to
I
create a
think
new
that
map.
That would be I think that would be appropriate, yeah. But I don't think we need to notify them tonight because we're thinking about. But yeah.
So I was just thinking of the timeline between now and whenever the budget has to be finalized, of what needs to be done, and that's one of the things that needs to be done. I guess.
Well, it would be, we'd have to notify the people, I think it's 30 days prior. I know initially it was thought as being just notify the people 30 days before you have a public hearing on it, but it's before that now. It's, the wording is such as when you consider it or something like that.
Well, certainly considering it if you're asking for a map to be produced.
So you're talking about way down Long Pond Stream
Yeah, there's somewhere, not at the very end
by the dam.
by the dam.
Back
but
ways.
Back up a ways.
There's quite a few properties.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of
And-
them on there.
I had looked at it just on Google Earth. I mean, I haven't been down there in years, and I didn't measure
250.
250, but my take was that
There's a lot of homes within
yeah,
that
this is
250.
going to be problematic.
I know it is.
Yeah, I know I've gone down there.
Gary
Nice.
Hilliard's house was down there, Keith McCrae's house. There's a lot of them within 250.
And I don't know how far down, you know, I kind of lose perspective when you're in a boat, just to
Yep.
where you are. But, you know, when I go down there in a boat and I'm across from the entrance to that pond or whatever.
Yep.
Hingham.
Ingham.
There's an awful lot of kids, cabin right
There's
down
a lot of
on the water now.
Yeah, there is. There was a lot.
And I don't think you get down too far before it narrows up, and I'm sure, I don't think that's the area that
Right.
is
Yeah.
proposed, so it may be that we don't even want, in the end, we don't know now, but we may not have any new proposal right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the case with the
Nothing.
Belgrade Stream because there's nothing there.
Yeah, that's totally different. But that's pretty
In fact,
developed.
it's not even accessible from the land except for one little part because you got the railroad there cutting it off.
Right.
My thinking, if we look at it aerial wise, and if we need to, when the ice forms, which won't be too long, might be able to take a snow machine down there along that shoreline. And
Yeah.
check it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I will call Denny and ask him about this agreement or letter.
Yep.
Specifically, you know, did we receive what was outlined? The 2 copies and the PDF? Because I'm thinking the answer is no. So that's, when the answer is no, I want to be able to say, well, that was written down in the letter and that was what we would expect. Additionally, we have to be able to move forward with a proper budget, and we have items that we know we need to have done. Essentially, we have a task list that we'd like to have at some point, cost estimates or estimates provided to us so that we can be rather mature in deciding how do we want to proceed.
Yeah, accurate in our budgeting, and I think it would be good to make sure he understands we're concerned that $2,500
Is not, it may not.
may not be enough,
Right,
and it may not be enough by a lot.
right, right. So the best way to know is to ask.
Right.
So that's not a harmful
Get
thing
a
at
cost
all.
estimate.
Mhm.
But they should take into consideration that we didn't get what we paid for.
Exactly.
Originally.
And, right. So I will call Denny, that's on me, I will call him.
Do you think it might be possible that he could meet with us as a group or something, like say before a selectmen's meeting sometime when he's here after work and you're out of work or something like that? And,
Ask him
Sure,
when you call him.
yeah.
just, Nick, the map that Sewell did send, that's still in that file, isn't it? Okay. just, in my mind, I'm surprised that a company with the reputation that Sewell has.
Screwed up that bad?
Yeah, or threw us off the wayside so quickly, or maybe because such a small amount of money, and they're used to big buck projects, but it just seems like I had more respect, if you will, for the company prior to this.
That's why I think there's something missing to this picture.
Yeah, I do too.
I think there's some communications that we're not privy to,
I think so too.
and I think Denny is probably the only one that is. Or there was miscommunication between him and them, it just.
The other thing is, he's, like I said, he's unfamiliar with what this map needs to look like when it's done, you know? But somebody else should be involved as well.
Which is, we'll be happy to help, so. Rich, thank you for summarizing those things that we need, and for your continued effort in this whole mapping effort. I was gonna say map quest, but I was gonna sound wrong, because Nick, thanks for giving us the copy of the new shoreline zone ordinance. Gary said it had been sent to DEP for review, is that correct?
Yes, both. There's some formatting changes that George pointed out, these don't contain it, so I might print out some more. Some of those formatting changes. And stuff
Okay.
like that.
And then there's a time,
I didn't read it yet myself.
and then there's a timeline. So DEP would, if they say they get it today, not that they did, but in my mind, it's kind of easy, because 45 days later, which is end of next month, right?
Yeah.
Then it'll be approved unless they have objections.
I can't imagine we did anything in there that wouldn't get their approval, or that they would
No,
object to. I don't.
Can't imagine.
Right.
One of the things Dennis asked me to discuss with you folks tonight is the section of the ordinance. Apparently, he's had some local realtors talk to him about it. The section of the ordinance that talks about a septic certification upon transfer of property, which is on page 42. Dennis is looking for ideas as to how you implement that, or how do you assure that this happens?
My thought when we were working on that was that, I mean, as with most things, it's sort of goodwill, voluntary on a lot of aspects, but I had actually, this was something I was gonna just suggest we start thinking about on the assumption that DEP would approve the ordinance. And it isn't just this section, and others, is to think ahead to implementation, but this one in particular, I was thinking it might be wise to we invited the realtors to the public informational meeting, none of them came, but but to reach out to them again, either to invite them to one of our meetings, or do it in writing with a letter highlighting what the changes are with regard to that section, and we drafting something that they could use as a handout, so there's not too much of a burden on them when they're dealing with a prospective seller or buyer that summarizes that section. It wouldn't be fair to put them in the position of being the enforcer of that.
No, I get that. And like Dennis and I discussed tonight, yeah, there's a lot of realtors right here in town, but there's also a lot of properties that get sold from realtors from out of town.
Yeah,
True.
That we don't know,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, previously, some from Augusta.
Augusta, I've seen properties sold from a Portland firm or
Exactly.
whatever, you know.
Right. And it's the only property they'll sell in 3 years in Belgrade.
But yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm sure some of these are gonna fall through the cracks, but I'd like to prevent most of them from falling through.
You also
Yeah.
have to double realtors, because my neighbor bought the house next door to me from a realtor from Delaware to a realtor here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of opportunities there for things to fall through the cracks.
Oh, I know.
But,
I know.
but I think a good faith effort would be to do something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a better way to do that,
Mm.
but
Well, we can certainly notify all the realtors we know,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, and there are some from the Waterville and Augusta areas that, you know, you see their signs up often enough.
Yeah.
We're not the only town that does this though, right?
No, China does it.
I wonder if there's a way to connect with like the real estate community, so that it'd be more on their radar to say, the following towns, you know, please keep in mind when conducting business in the following towns, these are the towns that have, you know, at point of sale to have the
Certification.
certification. And so then it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing something in China and Belgrade, I better make sure I do that thing.
Most people in today's world hire a septic certification person anyway.
Right, because for the buyer, they want assurance that it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Right?
And if if they're not a cash buyer, if they're going through a bank, the bank usually.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like a home inspection.
Yep.
Right.
And a septic certification.
Yeah.
Usually the bank wants that,
Mhm.
if there's a mortgage,
That's a good point too.
so.
It was interesting that, I mean, even though that, you know, because the governor vetoed it, and the veto wasn't overridden, the bill, the legislative bill that was very similar to what we have in our ordinance didn't pass, the real estate industry supported it.
Yeah.
I think because they saw it to be in their own, you know, best interests as
Yeah.
well as just kind of good business practice.
Right, right. Yeah, because, I mean, if I were a real estate person and I had a sale and say someone did cash, didn't go to a bank, and they didn't, no one said, oh, you gotta do a septic certification, then it fails.
You,
Who looks bad?
right, you do.
Exactly.
Well, and you know, from a financial perspective, in terms of liability, when the buyer files lawsuit against the seller, they're not just filing lawsuit against the seller, they're gonna file a lawsuit against the
Real
realtor
estate,
as well.
yeah, exactly.
But
And they do have some they have some obligations under the Maine Real Estate Commission in terms of divulging
They do.
information.
There-
It's kind of narrow, you know, but you know, when an attorney casts a wide net with a series of lawsuits, they're not gonna, so even if they're never found guilty of a thing,
Right, you know what, realtors are like car dealers, some are ethical and some aren't.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well said. Yeah, yeah,
That's because.
anyway, that was my thought on that.
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yep. What's that, Brett?
I was saying, my son, when he moved back from Georgia.
Yeah.
He was originally gonna take a different position here, that he could live in this general area. I went, he asked me to check on
A house?
a house down here at it's actually an over 55 community. It's the one, where the heck is it? It's on the way to the lakes on the right side.
Oh, yeah, it's where, there used to be a realtor right there. remember?
Yeah, right.
I went to the realtor.
Yeah.
My son is like 32 or something.
Yeah.
I went to the realtor and asked him about,
Yeah.
you know, whatever price and whatever. And I said, he said, somehow I learned it was supposed to be, it's
55?
It's over 55. The realtor told me, oh, don't worry about that.
Oh, I'm sure,
No one would care about that.
I'm sure.
It's like, God, jeez. Realtor's telling me this because all he wants to do is make a sale.
I bet you the abutters might feel differently.
Right. Because they have an agreement. They have an understanding. They have an expectation.
More than that, they got a deed.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
So anyway,
any other updates for
That's
us?
all I have.
No, you're all set. Nick, anything from your end? So, so to be clear on the shoreline zoning ordinance, we wait and keep what we have until end of year. And then I guess we'll find, if we don't have objections, we'll say, Rich, tell us if we're going down the wrong path, but if there are no objections from DEP by January 1, we would be then assuming that if no objections, then we know that it's then approved by default, correct?
Right, after 45 days, is that what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whether that's January 1 or not, I don't.
right, whatever it
Yes,
is.
we
Yeah.
don't hear from them time period.
And I was thinking 45 days, I just did quick math based on
That's pretty
November
sure you'll hear
15th
from 'em.
and doing calendar days, so. But I don't know if that's actually the count, but whatever it is.
It is, yeah. So, yeah.
Hopefully we won't get an application that goes from, comes in on day 30 and has to get held over to day 50.
Right.
Remember Gilman Loop? Just past Dave's store? Mark
Oh, yeah.
Glenrich?
Yep,
Remember he wanted to put a dormer on
right.
the house? Will the new ordinance allow him now to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So he's chomping at the bit to put in an application. I said, well, it's not in effect yet. So
Right.
slow down.
Come in when it's in effect,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've done our part.
Right.
So when we denied the application back then, he didn't go back and reconfigure anything to make it work and do it. He just been sitting on it.
He's just been sitting on it
Good.
because he wanted, I think the owner was here at a couple of those meetings.
Yeah, the owner was, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it for me.
In fact, I think he asked that question.
I
When
think
we gave
so.
him the answer, he left. That's all he needed to know.
Yeah, I think so.
At the
That's it.
public information.
I think you're right. Yeah.
That's all I need to know. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Okay, I think that's it, right? It's called a wrap. 8:20.